Okay, that should be good. Should be good now. I'll copy that link. Come over to here. Go into Discord. Hopefully that is all good. So I'm going to have to jump over onto here as well. Give out a little tester. Test. Jump onto a different account so I can test correctly. My laptop is doing things. All right, is that coming through? I sure hope so. Can't hear myself. All right, that's coming through. Would maybe be nice to bump it up if possible, but I'm just going to have to make do with this for the moment. Stream of consciousness. Everyone going live for the book recap. Paste that there. Yep, that is all posted. I'm not sure. Will I bother? Yeah, why not? I'll do it on Twitter as well. Who knows? Part of the reason I do the lives is it's actually easier because I don't need to reshoot the video and then re-upload all this video and stuff again. So that's kind of a benefit of doing these live ones, to be honest, which is hence why I've started off doing them on the book recap, I should say. I'm not sure. I won't do book reviews live. That's a bit too much effort. To be honest, a bit too much effort to do the book recaps live, book reviews live, because I make all these mistakes and stuff all the time. So it's not great for that. It wouldn't be, the audio would come out worse because of that. So yeah, just have to leave that as is. So I'm just on Twitter now and telling people I'm going live with the book recap. Tune in now or you'll have to wait for the audio/video to be released tomorrow. Cool. Done. Got a message just then actually about book recommendations. Ooh, my. That is some good recommendations. So I've posted that in there. Now let me just make sure I'm recording my audio properly. Apologies for the slight delay on this, but it'll be worth it because I got some good stuff to talk about. Hello. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. So I can start that recording now. And I'll just have to remember to cut that properly and edit that properly later. Yep, that's looking pretty good. Nice. And the last thing I'll try and do is just see if I can bump up the audio and make that a little bit louder for you if possible. Filters. Audio filters. I'm not seeing any audio filters. I'm not sure I want filters per se. I want gain. That's what I want. Maybe if I add this, I can add in gain. Yeah, I can. Okay. And then let me bump this up a bit. I'll put that up to 15, 16. See what that sounds like now. Hello. Are you hearing me better? Did I just get louder? Hopefully I did. All right, still speaking here. Got my books here. Yep, that's very loud. Beautiful. All right. Cool. And you can adjust your audios for you at home exactly how you want. I think that is pretty damn good. Last one was a bit of a mishap, but this one I think is actually looking charming. So let me jump over to my notes now, and then I'll fully get into it. And I do have some notes. Let me order these books in the order that I'll be reading them out. Got that. I still haven't got all of these. Sorry, last little minute thing here. Maybe I can get some Or, yeah, make the stream even better. Excellent. Yes, 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 yes. And then I go over here and I'll post this into the chapters section. And I'll just have to remember. Ooh, and I'll have to see as well. Maybe I can do a quick screen change as well and just see if the audio drops when I... God damn it, shitty computer. Why won't you go... Oh, it went to where I wanted to. Okay. Are those going to be ordered correctly? Probably not. I'll read them out as I see them on the screen, maybe. Yeah. Cool. Oh, yeah, this is looking good. This is looking a G-rate, in fact. So the last thing I want to do here is a little tester over here. And then if I go here, what does that sound like? I hope that's still sounding good. If I go over to here, I can maybe see in the filters, still got the gain. Nice. Rock on. Rock bloody on. Cool. All right. Okay, everyone, I think that's it. Let me just check that that is rolling. That is good. I'll just close that down for the moment. That one's rolling. I'm pretty sure it's good on YouTube. Pretty sure I don't need that. Pretty sure that is good. This one is rolling now and seems to be recording me okay. So I'm going to assume that's good enough. Yeah, that looks good enough. That looks... Should be able to bump that up. Should be able to. Cool. And I've got that there. Right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And Amal, have you read any average books lately? Make sure it's good, just good practice to add a prompt in. Good practice indeed. Cool. Yeah, this is good stuff. All right, let's try and do this all in one because I'm live. Welcome, my mere mortal lads, to another round of the book recaps. It is your favorite mere mortal host here, Kyrin. A bit mean to one, but in any case, I'm the one who does the book recap. So this is where at the end of every month, I go over all the books that were reviewed on this channel, this being the Mere Mortals book reviews. I add some additional notes and maybe some things that you might not have realized didn't particularly make it into the book reviews themselves. I then go over to the support section, thank everyone who is contributing to this podcast via value for value, and then I can give you a little bit of hint at what is coming up for the next section. So I'm going to jump right into this here and share my screen. And the first one that I had here was The Courage to be Disliked by Ishiro Kishimi and Fumitaki Koga. So this was an okay book. It's self-help. I've read a lot of self-help books over the years, and they all start to blend in and merge into this kind of conglomeration with various styles, some being more practical, this one wasn't, and some having additional aspects, some being funnier, some being whatever. This one, I suppose, was distinct because of the aspect of Adlerian psychology, which I had not heard of before. I didn't even know there was kind of another third psychologist, psychoanalyst in the same level as kind of Freud and Jung. So they claim in this book. Was he actually that big as those two? I'm not so sure. But in any case, I did create some key points here. And I gave this a 6.5 out of 10 as well. So you can see that it's not like my favorite, and I start with the good books first. So hence why this month this was called It's My Fault. I chose to read these books, but there was a reason. Anyway, I'm going to get into the key points that I took away from Adlerian psychology as it kind of appeared through the book. So number one, the past does not exist. All actions are down to goals, and most negative thinking is down to the goal is to achieve the goal of not doing X. So this was really reframing it and showing the personal responsibility is on you. If you are not doing something, it is because you're actually trying to not do something. So that's the initial framing. All problems are interpersonal relationship problems. And that one was kind of, you need to read the book to get fully into that. There are life tasks involving work, friends, and relationships. If you avoid these tasks, you are living a life lie. So that is a concept that comes up in the book, the life lie. There are separate tasks, and don't intervene in other people's tasks. So it is really this kind of hands-off approach where it's not only is it you and an individual need to fix your own problems, you can't really go around fixing other people's problems. This is where I would strongly agree with this psychology and the Adlerian psychology and say, yeah, you know what? I have noticed whenever I try and meddle with other people's problems in life, it doesn't help things. Suggestions get advice, suggestions. If anything, I make it worse. So I'm more of the mindset where unless people are coming to me and asking me for help, I'm not going to particularly jump on board and really try and help them out in that respect. We're all part of a larger community, and this gets to the universe level. So it's kind of like listen to the voice of the larger to get to the community feeling. So this is where it gets somewhat spiritual, I would say, where it's like we're all part of the atoms. There's goodness in the universe, and Adlerian psychology is about doing the most. It doesn't really frame it in a nice enough way for me. If it said something along the lines of doing the most good, the best thing for everyone, I'd be content to leave it at that and say, you know what, that's good enough. But it had this kind of bit of a spiritual bend onto it, which I didn't find particularly enlightening. Didn't clarify things for me. And then the last section was about horizontal relationships. So this is equal but not the same. I think that's a very good distinguishing point. A lot of people get tripped up with it's good to have equal opportunity but not equal outcome. There's kind of like the failing of communism, I guess, where it tricks people into thinking that hard work is the same as getting the same outcome, and that's just not true. There's fundamental differences between humans, and so if you put an equal amount of hard work, you are going to get a different result. Thankfully, you can put in even more hard work to kind of level out that result again. So therefore, assistance and encouragement is required to complete one's tasks, i.e. leading a horse to water, but not forcing it to drink. This is once again the kind of idea that if people are having problems, you're not trying to force them to drink something, but you can direct them to the source, I suppose, to the goodness, to the good ideas, to the mental techniques that'll help them, to physical tasks that will get them back in shape, or whatever your problem is, versus praises and punishment, which they deem as manipulation. This one I kind of got, and it was really saying you shouldn't praise anyone ever, nor should you punish anyone ever. And it's more of you're leading them down to this path, because praise can be interpreted as, oh, this person is saying good things about me, so now I'm going to do that thing just for their praise, and this is relying on other people, and relying on other people is kind of bad in Adlerian psychology. So it got a bit too far, because it was really talking about how if your kid is doing something, you should neither praise nor punish them, but lead them to the source of the water. And I just see that being as kind of impractical. It'd be very, very hard to raise your kid like that. Maybe it's doable, and I just haven't looked into it enough, but I definitely think that the idea, the concept of it is probably for the best. It would be great, but I'm just not sure it's feasible to not praise nor punish anyone ever, because those mechanisms are very, the incentives make things very clear, whereas this leading a horse to water, so your child is being naughty and you're trying to lead them away from them being naughty, it might be unclear to the child, at least in my mind, that they are doing something naughty. They don't have the mental capacity to really know that second level or third level order of effects of what's going on. So look, I won't totally dismiss it, but yeah, it did seem just a bit harsh. The whole psychology, to be honest, seemed a little bit harsh to me. So the next book that I had in this series was Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne. So I actually had a bit of a bigger copy here with some of the initial sketchings, illustrations created by, I said his name in the actual book review, but I've forgotten here, by Alfonso de Neuville and Leon Bennett, as engraved by Henry Theopold Hildebrand, Adolfo Frances Panamaker, and others. So, geez, there was actually quite a few that I missed. I did like the contrasts that you'd kind of I found in this book, especially between the main characters. So this would being Passepartout and between Phileas Fogg. Phileas Fogg was this very strict, rational, calm Englishman. Everything's done by the book. Everything's precise. Let me look at my watch, and we're going around in this time. The exactitude of this longitude, and the funny thing is he screws it up at the end because he does a full revolution of the world and forgets to minus a day when he crosses the international date line, which didn't actually exist at the time, so kind of made sense as well in the book. But there's no way that practically he would have actually got the days mixed up, because there would have been the newspapers would have had the wrong date, other things would have had the wrong date, but it was still a funny thing. I do like the Stoic Englishman trope, and if you've seen my review of Food of the Gods by H.G. Wells, I believe that was who? Yeah, H.G. Yeah, something like that. And my favorite character in that was the engineer Cossar, who was this kind of kind of similar. I won't say very similar, but kind of similar to Phileas Fogg, where it's that Stoic Englishman. There's just something about it which I really enjoy, which I think, no nonsense. All right, lads, let's get to business. Let's do this thing. And there's no whining or complaining. There's no, and it's taking things in a good way. It's, a setback. They don't have this kind of aggressive good to it, but it's just like, whatever. I'll fix that. This is all to be expected. Let's continue on. I thought that was cool, but in comparison to Cossar, Phileas Fogg lacks in passion. He doesn't have this this drive which Cossar, the engineer, did in the Food of the Gods, whereas he was just a bit too dispassionate. And so I'm going to read out in a second. This is on page 84 of this book that I have, and this was how certain Phileas Fogg was on many different things. So here we go. So he's rescued this lady, this Indian lady, forgetting her name, Lady Aouda, Aouda, and they're going to Hong Kong. And she's like, would she receive assistance and protection at his hands? She couldn't say. To which Mr. Fogg responded that she wasn't to worry, that everything would work out mathematically. This was his watchword. Did the young woman understand what he meant by that horrid adverb? Who knows? She kept her large eyes on Mr. Fogg's the whole time, her large eyes as limpid as the holy lakes of the Himalayas. But Fogg the incurable, as much as a stuffed shirt as ever, apparently wasn't the sort to dive into such a lake. And this is weird because he's super like this all the time. He's not understanding. He's not showing human emotion. This lady is kind of falling for him, and it just makes me go like, what's she actually falling for him about? I mean, he's not showing any affection towards her. It's so strange. And then they're just getting married right at the end. It's just like, bam. Oh, love confession from Phileas Fogg, and I've actually loved you this whole time, even though he's this kind of dispassionate, stoic guy. So, I don't know. It was a little bit strange. And Passepartout, in contrast, was this bumbling oaf in many ways, an ignoramus almost. And it's funny. I just don't see why Phileas Fogg would even put up with him. So there's this section where they've gone to this very random town in the middle of nowhere in the United States, and the Mormons are there. And so he's basically like, I'll just read it out. As for Passepartout, in his capacity as confirmed bachelor, he looked with definite trepidation at these Mormon women who had to be jointly responsible for the happiness of just one Mormon male. In his common sense way, he especially pitied the husband. So this is where Mormons can have multiple wives. It struck him as dreadful to have to guide so many ladies at one time through life's complications, leading them in a body to their Mormon paradise, and all with the prospect of their spending eternity in the company of the glorious Smith, who had to be the high spot of that delectable locale. No doubt about it, the Frenchman didn't feel called to any such thing, and he found, though maybe he was kidding himself, that the female citizens of Salt Lake City were shooting some slightly disturbing looks at his person. Passport too, you devil. And then he goes on to chat with this Mormon, and the Mormon says, and he asks him, how many wives he had. He said, "One, sir," the Mormon answered, raising his arms to high heaven. "One, and she's enough." And so, yeah, there's just these funny things where Passport 2 is he just misinterprets things. He lives in his own reality, which isn't exactitude mathematically. He keeps his watch on the same time throughout the whole journey. And there's this constant running joke that the watch is wrong, except at the two times right in the middle when he's gone 12 hours into the future, I suppose, in this case, or into the past, maybe. And then in another, when he arrives back in London and his famous grandmother's watch is now on the exact time again. It's like, oh my God. I don't know. It was just the book itself. That was probably why I didn't enjoy it as much. The characters were slightly, not too outlandish, but just slightly, they didn't behave as characters kind of would. You'd expect them to, as you'd maybe see in real life. There was just a little bit too much fiction thrown into it for me. So I gave that a 6 out of 10. The last book that I personally reviewed was the Tibetan Book of the Dead. There's a little bit of drama going on with the image that you see on your screen at the moment. So apparently I was being a bit offensive. There's worth highlighting out. So what I do with all of these book reviews is I create an image. I like showing that it's a personalized touch, that I've actually put in the effort to not only review the book, but do something a little bit different for the thumbnails, so you can just see that it's not just this generic template. I just want to do something. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on it. So what I have kind of settled on is I either choose the author themselves, a photo of them if I can, and if not, maybe I will grab a photo of some of the main characters of the book or a movie version of them, and then I just stick my face on it. That's what I do. It's funny, sometimes I'll do it with females, sometimes I'll do it with gods. In this case, or not, he's not a god in this case, but he was a very famous Tibetan monk, Padmasambhava, maybe, and what I do is I just literally put my face on. So, and this was a golden statue of him. I cut out the face, I put my face on it, and then I made it goldish. And I kind of do this half-assed thing, so it's not getting into the uncanny valley. You can obviously tell I've just done a rough Photoshop. One of the comments I got from someone in the YouTube was very kind, but asking me to. He found it offensive, and I don't want to be unnecessarily offensive, but when you're playing this game of recording things, of doing things for the internet, if someone somewhere is going to find anything you do offensive, and are you willing to change your whole style, what you believe in? Maybe not what you believe in. It's this weird game. If a lot of people found this offensive, and for example, if I was to review the Quran, I probably wouldn't use a photo of Muhammad and then put my face over it, because you can get killed for that. Go check out the Charlie Hebdo sort of stuff. Do I care enough about my little funny things that I do to risk being killed for? Nah, not particularly. And I'm not at a huge level of interest from other people, but who knows? If you're willing to kill someone over a cartoon, I don't understand that sort of person, and maybe they watch random small YouTubers and podcasters in that respect. So I kindly said, look, I don't mean to. There is no intent for me to be making fun of your god or your Tibetan monk or these people that you revere, but I'm also not willing to change my style, my approach, just for a one-off little thing. And it's a balance. It's a mix. If I had received a torrent of people saying they all felt super offended by what I was doing, and that even though there was no ill will on my part, the action still caused this offense, maybe I would be willing to change. But in this case, I'm not. So dusting my hands of that, just so people know. This really gets into, once again, why I labeled this as I did. It's all my fault. Getting into the Adlerian psychology, it's all my fault. I'll take responsibility. I chose to read this. I chose to read this book knowing that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it. This was originally part of my goals a couple of years ago, where I wanted to learn more about Buddhism, where I was reading all of these texts and these things, and I read enough of the original text to go, or translations of the original text to go, this stuff is boring. I don't get it. It's not my culture. It's just not super applicable and useful for me. This book was pretty much like that. It was 80% of random names, wherever the ether pervadeth, consciousness pervadeth, wherever consciousness pervadeth, the Dharmakaya pervadeth. Abide tranquilly in the uncreated state of the Dharmakaya. In that state, birth will be obstructed and perfect enlightenment gained. There's just so much. 80% of it was talking about the guru, mother, father, was talking about people, about these gods, and it just means nothing to me. You could be listing off, I don't know, names of places in Phuket, and it would have just as much impact on me as these names, places, locations had. This appealing to a higher authority, which I know nothing about, it didn't work on me. So my fault. It did reconfirm a lot of what I had discovered already in these original texts, which is there's a lot of kind of posturing, of aggrandizing, of lack of verifiable type things or calls to action that I can do to prove what they're saying is real. It's already substantiated that this is the gospel and that you have to believe this. I'm not at that stage, so that approach doesn't work for me. And, taken on face value without a whole life of cultural context, enforcing baggage, indoctrination, it's rather nonsensical. So I gave it a 2.5 out of 10, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Once again, I don't mean to be mean. I'm sure there's plenty of other people who gained great things from this, but I personally did not. Let's get on to what Juan checked out for his 2 book reviews. So the first of these was Courage is Calling. He gave this an 8 out of 10, so he really loved this book. It seemed to be that the reason that he enjoyed it was probably because so many of the examples were physical in nature. What I question is, how much is that applicable to today's day in life, where a lot of what we do is not about physical courage, and that the courage is actually more a mental nature, i.e., do you have the courage to tell your wife that you don't love her anymore, and to end a relationship which is turning sour, but it's one of comfort and that sort of thing? Do you have the courage to come out as gay in a world where there is still plenty of prejudice against gay people, or transgender, or insert whatever your particular thing is? I don't really mind. All is good as long as you're not hurting other people. That's everything is beautiful and good. Best of luck to everyone. You can be an idiot like me. I have to come out as an idiot all the time. The thing is just that from the book, it sounded like it was really about showing your courage when you're under fire, or when you're in a battle, or to I don't know, just all those sorts of things where you'd typically associate courage with. So it makes sense. It makes sense that if they're talking about firefighters and things like that. But for a general population, for general people who thankfully don't need to work in extreme jobs like being a mercenary or a professional soldier or a firefighter or things like that, how much is courage useful in your everyday life? And if it is useful, maybe it's better to talk about more the mental nature of it. So those were just my thoughts. I haven't read the book. I'm just responding to what he said. Would I personally go and read that book? Absolutely not. It did not sound appealing to me at all. Neither particularly did Stillness Is The Key, but this is more related to how it's written. And we've got a Boostagram coming out on that. So that was an 8 out of 10 for one. The other one, Stillness Is The Key, once again by Ryan Holiday. It's not great if your definition is hazy, if that's what the book is all about. So one called that out where he was saying he found the definition to be kind of lacking. And yeah, that was, I suppose, a bit of a detraction if you've written a whole book about this and someone reads it and they kind of feel like, what's it about? Like, what exactly are you talking about? That's not the greatest thing. Once again, related to the physical nature of things, Juan doesn't like being still, so he's going to struggle with something like that. So he gave it a 6.5 out of 10. We actually did have a big discussion on the relationship aspect. He mentioned that within the book review and how Ryan Holiday was saying you need to have stillness. You need to have a relationship to find stillness. That doesn't compute for me. I would have thought you find stillness probably a bit easier if you don't have a big committed relationship with another person. That seems to me like it'd be more an addition of complexity, and stillness I'm not sure is necessarily found in complex things. But if you want to know more about that, I would recommend checking out episode 340 of the Mere Mortals podcast. So if you type 340 into our search bar on our website, you'll 100% that or get that or stillness, and you'll also get that. So that is it for the actual books. That's 5 books, and one of them was a carryover from the previous month because it actually released in December, just because that's how it goes. I only want to review the books if they've actually already, talk about in the recap if they've actually already been reviewed and released. So let's get on to the Boostagram Lounge. Let's talk about some Boostagrams. So for those who don't know, a Boostagram is a message that you can send within your podcasting app that you're listening on. So if you're on YouTube, leave a comment. But on the actual podcast audio, you can send a comment in, and this will have a value attached to it of Satoshis. And a Satoshi is a portion of Bitcoin. And we do this, this is a value for value podcast. So we just ask that you put whatever value you want on the show. If you hated it, that's fine. You gave it a negative value. Stop watching. If you have, a completely neutral, uncaring value, that is 100% fine. You do not need to do anything. If you enjoyed it, if you think, man, I'm glad I learned something from this, that they put in a whole host of time and effort. Some of the themes that they talked about were great. I'm actually going to go get this book, that sort of thing. Perfect. I would just appreciate if you could send some of that value back my way. And this doesn't necessarily need to be in a monetary form. So you can do it by just simply telling a friend and saying, hey, there's a really good book reviews channel. You can check them out on YouTube or whatever podcast app of your choice. You could send me in some book recommendations. Oh, Kyrin, you didn't like this one. This might have a different spin on it. Oh, Kyrin, you did like this one. This book is also in that genre. You'll probably appreciate it. I have read many books from book recommendations because how else are you going to find out about a good book to read? And I obviously need them because I've read some kind of average ones recently. And then the final way, as I mentioned, is a Boostagram. This is really people who are putting their money where their mouth is. They value the show a lot. And so they have sent in a message directly to the show with this payment attached. And I like to close that loop, that feedback loop, and thank them directly and read out their message so they can be part of the Mere Mortals book review and the Mere Mortals book recap. So with all that being said, let's go into our Boostagrams. We have Petar kicking us off here. And so for the Test of the D'Urbervilles, he said, I've never even heard of this author or book. Thanks for doing this review. My horizons have been expanded. Horizons expanded. Nice. And that was 3,333 sats. Thank you, Petar. Yep. Thomas Hardy. I'm surprised you haven't. I'd heard of him just for his kind of poetical nature and that he writes kind of books, classics, I guess. So I'm a fan of classic books, so yeah, this was easy to find for me for sure. Also had 333 sats just boosted in from Joel W. No note. I'd appreciate that if you want to send in a note at some point, man. I would absolutely love that. So let's keep going on. We had Petar again, another 3,333, and I believe he's sending these through Fountain. And this is on the Stillness book, and he said, I found mindful meditation to be a useful tool, but I can totally see how it's not for everyone. Some people are hopelessly mesmerized in the idea of self. Stillness will just be annoying to those folks, and that's all right too. Stillness would be just annoying to those folks. There are people who get lost in the self. You see this with the psychonauts, so people who really dive deeper into the aspect of psychedelics and the experiences you can have and mixing, or what if I take THC with LSD, and what if I change up the dose? What if I try this brand or this variation of it? What if I go into the park and do this? I'm exploring myself and I'm learning more about the world and these sorts of things. You know, that level of self diving is a bit too much. Narcissists obviously care a lot about themselves, and you see certain people who, whilst can be very successful in life, they are obsessed with what other people think, which is just an awful way to live, because you can never know what other people think, but you can know what you think, which is a very reassuring thing. I personally quite like mindful meditation as well. I don't use it all the time, but I find it a useful tool, like Petar has mentioned here. And yeah, I'm not sure how much of the book was actually really about meditation and mindfulness, though. It did seem like this stillness aspect was, I'm not sure if it was a meditative one. Perhaps because he's talking about the Stoics. Generally, that's what Ryan Holiday's books are about. So, and there are aspects of Buddhist type thought that I have definitely seen in Stoic writings. Epictetus, these Marcus Aurelius, this call to examine your own mind. To there are aspects where you can go, oh yeah, that it does relate to Buddhism somewhat, just not the the random stuff that you find in the afterlife, but more the aspect of introspecting inwards, of examining your own thoughts and examining your senses and trying to determine what is real and what is not. So, yeah, thank you very much, Petar. Much appreciated. We've also got him coming in again. Oh, he's supporting the show a lot just because he really enjoys the show. So thank you. And he says, sorry to be critical, and this is about The Courage is Calling. Sorry to be critical, but does this qualify as a book? It sort of seems to me that Ryan Holiday writes long pamphlets. Also, I feel saying courage is 100% virtue is a bit romantic. I think courage is often some part secret recklessness. Yeah, that's true. Or at least something that people often mistake for courage as some part self-destruction. Anyone who takes risks for the greater good has at least accepted their mortality at the minimum. Lastly, simply not being selfish anymore is not a form of courage. Okay. Yeah. The kind of gets onto why I struggle with the word courage as well. I wouldn't label myself as courageous in any form whatsoever, and that probably is just because the actual virtue of it is it's kind of opaque to me. It does seem to be wrapped up with this kind of warlike mentality of, I get the facing your fear aspects, but there is it does seem to have this sort of like you mentioned, a recklessness, a self-destructive aspect perhaps as well. Whatever it is, I'm kind of picky about words for some reasons, and sometimes I can't explain them fully, but courage is definitely not one that appeals to me. So I probably lean more towards the side of Petar than I do with Juan for this one. But that is okay, because you can think whatever the hell you want to think and enjoy whatever the hell you want to enjoy. The last two coming in here are from none other than Petar again. Says, I steal this idea from Peterson. Your goal isn't to chase happiness. Your goal is to not be miserable. Bang on. That's related to the psychology one. Thank you, Petar. And then Cole McCormick. So this is the host of America Plus. And he says, happiness begins in the mind because all your actions begin there too. Thoughts become words and words become habit. happiness begins in the mind. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. I think there is an aspect of action coming first and then that influencing your thoughts. I think it can run both ways. Probably, I mean, look, even the whole talking about happiness is I don't like it. I don't like talking about chasing happiness and finding happiness and becoming truly happy and those sorts of things. It's nice. There's no doubt it's nice to be happy, but I just think it's the wrong thing to focus on. And happiness begins in the mind because all your actions begin there too. You know, that's probably the part I'd take issue with. I'm not sure all actions begin in the mind. There's certainly plenty of things I've done which I had no thought of. I just did them, whether it be an instinctive reaction, and this is where you could, in an evolutionary sense, say, yeah, there's no way you actually knew what you were doing then because your body and your brain reacted without the conscious thought of that. But I'm nitpicking here. Cole, thank you so much for sending some stats in my way, and that is really encouraging. A bit of a definitely boost up since the previous month, and getting some new faces in here, which is also super encouraging. One of the things about value for value is that it takes a long time, and it can be the discouraging if you're not getting feedback, if it feels like you're talking into a void and whatnot, which is why at this stage I really just highlight, look, it's not even about the monetary amount at this stage. It's more about the aspect of actually knowing that you're out there, that you're caring, that you're listening, and leaving a comment of some sort. Without that feedback, it becomes very, very hard to continue doing this on, and which is why I immensely appreciate Petar, especially, but also Cole and also Joel W for sending in a boost of showing that value that I am actually doing something valuable. If I'm not doing something valuable, I don't want to keep doing this. It helps me doing these things and clarifying stuff in my mind, but for the amount of effort that I put into it, I definitely need it to be valuable to others. And if I'm not doing that correctly, I need to know that. So any thoughts, any words back and appreciation of that would be immensely appreciated on my part as well. So that is it in terms of the Boostagram Lounge. Thank you everyone for participating, much appreciated. And if you're on the YouTube and you want to take the real extra effort and go and learn all about all of these things, I would just recommend going to the Fountain app. That's probably the easiest at the moment. Just play around on that. Maybe you'll figure it out. If you want to know more, go check out the Mere Mortals podcast, because we give more in-depth, detailed actions of how you can help participate in the value for value. Whew, there's a big one. Everyone, thank you for that. What is coming up for February of 2023? There's a couple of books here. I have finished The Catcher in the Rye. Boom, you're done. So J.D. Salinger, that is definitely coming up. I have gotten midway through Common as Air by Lewis Hyde. Probably there's a good book. I'm going to give it a good rating. I'm not sure exactly what it'll be at the moment, but definitely that will be there. I have Algorithms for Dummies. I'm about a third, maybe a quarter. That's a bummer of the way through that. I'll try and take a real big effort to finishing that this month, but I'm not sure I'll finish it and do the book review. So just so you know, that's what I'm actually reading. I did have a whole section of other books. I did say I wanted to do Emile Zola. I did say I wanted to do Reality Plus. These books came up first, so those are definitely still in my to read list. Those kind of authors and things. Once again, recommendations if you want to send through in a Boostagram or in a comment. I would love to receive that, and I do keep a constantly updating book list on my phone, so all of those are much appreciated. One, I believe, has a book related to, I know he's reading Life Force by Tony Robbins at the moment, and there was another two books that he's finished, but for the life of me, can't remember what they are. So one also has a book review or two, which might be appearing on in February. Whew, that is a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things going on. Everyone, thank you for joining in. I'm going to just highlight this here. I will be doing these book recaps live in the future. It's going to be a mess around. I don't have a fixed date for it. I'll probably try and do it on the Sunday before this is released. So this is always released on the last Monday of the month. So I'll probably do it the day before on the Sunday if I can, but maybe sometimes it'll work better to do it earlier. Yeah, it's if you feel like joining in live, that's awesome. I don't particularly check the comments and whatnot. So if people are commenting, if not, that's totally fine as well. If you don't tune in live, but just know that I am doing them. So with all of that being said, thank you very much, everyone, for listening all the way to the end. I know this is a bit rambly. I'm going to try and keep it a little bit shorter next time. But it is also meant to be rambly because I'm giving you these additional thoughts, these additional things, which you might not find in the actual polished book reviews that I put out. So I do hope you're having a fantastic day wherever you are in the world. And that is it. Kyrin out.